Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel, and today we actually have a very special video, and it's also going to be quite controversial I believe, but I always encourage everybody to share their own opinions. And before we get any further, please do not forget that this video is going to be merely an expression of my opinion. It's not going to be me stating something as a fact. It's looking at the game through my eyes and through my perspectives. Right, all that being said, this is actually quite a special video. In this video we're going to be discussing basically which ones are the best classes in Marvel Construct Champions right now, which ones are the worst class of Marvel Construct Champions right now in my opinion. And in addition to all of that, this video will basically kickstart my bi-yearly basically champion rankings, where I'm gonna pick top 10 champions of each class currently in Marvel Construct Champions in my opinion, and then eventually we're going to end up with top 10 champions in the game total. Now, this video also will determine the order of which all of those ranking videos will be released, and they're going to start on Monday. So starting Monday, I'm going to release the first class, Tuesday 2nd, Wednesday 3rd, Thursday 4th, Friday 5th, Saturday the best class in the game, and on Sunday we're going to release top 10 videos. So it's going to be one video per day upcoming each week, and yeah, stay tuned for those. And as I said, the class rankings in this video will determine what class is going to follow in which prior class basically. Right, so we're going to start off with the weakest class in the game currently in my opinion, and that is quite undoubtedly skill. Right, skill class is basically getting carried hardcore by two of these very brave men, and both of them are basically diagonally different in what they do for you. Nick Fury, quite honestly, is pretty much my most used champion. Currently, he's getting placed in Alliance War defense, but I do have a rank 5 5-star, which I bring to Alliance Quest offense. Quite often, I end up using my 5-star in Alliance quests. I do use and rely on his synergies a lot, and basically he does it everything, and he is one of the best champions in game, and he's hardcore doing the legwork for entire class. Without him, I think skill class would be in so much more dire condition. And then we have Aegon himself, the Everest King, the champion for pretty much any really long content, and that's not all there is to him these days. I think we proved that in the John Mulaney's challenge, where he was my primarily attacker. In addition to that, he gained a lot of use in 6.3 and 6.4, and I have a sneaking feeling that he is going to be extremely valuable in Act 7 as well, because these quests have increased in the length quite substantially to a point where it's very realistic and plausible to rank him up to a relatively decent level, and he's already an insane champion and superbly useful at like combo 100, combo 150. He definitely gets into it when he has access to true accuracy, shrugs of debuffs, deals a ton of damage even through block, and that's absolutely amazing. So two of these champions, and then there's a huge drop-off. Then we have other good champions, definitely, but they are significant grades below them. We have Night Rusher, Spider-Man Stealth Suit, we have Hitmonkey, we have Taskmaster, we have Massacre, we have Ronin, we have Falcon now. Unfortunately, Daredevil Netflix buff was a bit of a dud. Black Widow Deadly Origins, take it or leave it. Mallman, one of the duds of the year, I would say. Killmonger is a solid champion. The skill class has plenty of champions that are relatively similar power ranking in between each other. And honestly, whenever you do rank these champions in skill class, anything below position 2 is kind of somewhat irrelevant. Like, champion who is in spot number 3 might as well end up in spot number 8 in somebody else's list, because the variance of their power level is not all that great. And that's the biggest downfall. Skill class does not have large enough number of champions that would be considered as kind of like meta beasts and stuff like that. Yes, they have their occasional uses, but the way I kind of went about to determine which class is better than which other was to compare without which class I would be better off playing this game, and ultimately, if I had to pick one class of champions, which one would it be for me to play this game and deal with as much content as possible? And skill class definitely came the first on chopping block. Right, now we're gonna move on to the second weakest class in the game, and currently, in my opinion, that is Cosmic. Even though Cosmic has had a definite great addition in Cosmic Ghost Rider, he's an absolute beast of a champion that's gonna be insanely popular due to his enjoyable playstyle, absolutely huge yellow numbers, very great damage. Overall, Cosmic class, in my opinion, to every single, or almost every other kind of like popular MCOC YouTuber, it's one of the most kind of like common things to hear in videos. Cosmic class is so insanely stacked. No, it isn't. No, it really is not. Ultimately, when it comes to answer the question, how many of the current Cosmic champions would you personally not hesitate to take to rank 3 as 6 stars? The common answers there are Corvus Glaive, Captain Marvel Movie, Silver Surfer for Prestige, and that's pretty much where it ends. Hyperion's not available as a 6 star currently. Unfortunately, he would be another one, and now we have a new addition to Cosmic Ghost Rider. So at best case scenario, there are 4 champions, one of whom is pretty much exclusively prestige ranked, and for majority of the people who use Silver Surfer, I have kind of grown to appreciate him somewhat more, but he definitely doesn't get ranked because of that appreciation. In most cases, he gets ranked because of prestige. As a champion quality, currently there are 3 6-star champions in Cosmic class that you would take up with no hesitation. Other than that, again, you do have very significant drop-off below that, and there are plenty of respectable options. There is Venom, there is Medusa, even Carnage, in my personal opinion, is quite great. We have Vision Arcus, who is, again, slowly growing on me, but still. And there's Calopsidians and whoever. But ultimately, again, if it would be your first or second rank 3 champion of any class and you formed a Cosmic Catalyst, how many of those champions you would take up without hesitation if you had the chance? Again, Silver Surfer, if you care about prestige, Corvus Glaive, Captain Marvel movie version, or now freshly added Cosmic Ghost Rider. The class is not awful by any means, but in my opinion, it just needs a couple more additions on par with Cosmic Ghost Rider that might not necessarily be the alpha and omega of contest, but that do something very greatly, that are getting used, that are getting popularized and pushing the class out there. Overall, Cosmic class, I think, is the class that's filled with the most mediocre champions. And by mediocre, I don't mean that these champions are awful and they don't have any set uses. Like, I know we have people who absolutely stand by Proxima Midnights, we have people who absolutely stand by Annihilus or whatever, but objectively there just are not quite enough of amazing rank up options. And even though the champions that are at top of the class are definitely impressive, I just don't think it is quite enough to propel Cosmic class any further. And now we need to move on to class number 3, and class number 3 is going to be Tech class. Now, Tech class, again, has been slowly but surely kind of bulking up. Actually, the buffing of Hulkbuster did quite a lot for Tech class, in my opinion, because I do look at Hulkbuster as a very good champion right now in the game. And Guardian is definitely extremely solid addition to Tech class. A lot of heavy lifting in the class itself is being done by 2 champions once more. This Ghost, who is, in my personal opinion, second best champion in game. And then we have Warlock, who is the second best Tech champion. Arguably the best Tech champion, actually, currently, because Warlock seems to be actually getting used more and more in Alliance War. Definitely way more popular Alliance War champion than Ghost is right now. And overall, Warlock is just one of those very hard-working champions that people tend to rely on, and no matter the circumstance, they want to bring them in. As a colorful example for that, once more, would be the fact that, for instance, Warlock is a great option for John Mulaney's challenge as well, to counter himself in this case. But he has provided a ton of great utility. Guillotine 2099 is one of the more popular Tech champions as well. I'm personally not in that kind of like close relationship with that robot beauty. I am not the biggest fan of her. I can definitely see the appeal. She is quite popular. She is being used a lot everywhere. And on top of all that, it kind of like added just like an extra spunk. In my opinion, Guillotine 2099 release was a bit of a flop, a bit of a fail, because she was projected to be the next gen Aegon. And when the most significant content for that type of champions got released, she got basically nerfed in the bud by the quote-unquote enrage mechanic, by these charges where she could not finish the fights in one go, where she could not start the next fight on 100 combo. And only thing that Guillotine really needs, in my opinion, to really function well is additional way, maybe a synergy with a great champion that lets her to have an alternative method of starting the next fight on 100 combo. Anyways, all that being said, I think Tech class still is in quite dire need of some reinforcements, because again, the reason they are third and not third worst class and not second worst class is primarily because of Ghost and how dominant is Ghost and Warlock. The duo, once again, puts pretty much vast majority of the heavy lifting in the game. Then we have champions that are Stark Enhanced Spider-Man, in my opinion, kind of somewhat outdated at the point. Iron Man Thekiryu has always had a bit of a cult following. Darkhawk, I'm not the biggest fan of it. Mysterio, however, I think is a very solid upper echelon champion for the Tech class as well. And yeah, all in all, I think Tech class has definitely some very, very great champions, but it's just not quite enough of them in there to push that class anywhere further, especially when it comes to competing for the top 3 spots. And with top 3 spots, we're just gonna try and increase the pickup speed a bit. So the third best class in game at the moment, in my opinion, is Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom is quite... Mystic class. Mystic class is the third best class in the game currently, in my opinion. And as you guys probably would have noticed, Mystic class is quite heavily being flagshipped by Dr. Doom, who has taken the dominant #1 position in Mystic class in general. He's by far the best champion in the class itself. Many people try to challenge his claim to fame by saying Black Widow Clairvoyant is better, especially if you run Suicides. But the way I look at it is, I would take Dr. Doom without Suicide Masteries over Clairvoyant with Suicide Masteries 100 times. Well, maybe not 100 immunities, I would think. But overall, I think the Mystic class itself, unfortunately, still is kind of like in a shadow of Mystic Dispersion and still largely revolves around that mastery, and a lot of champion mechanics are being built around it, which I think ultimately is also currently ironically serving as Achilles' heel for Mystic class. We have had additions of Black Widow Clairvoyant, Longshot, Mojo, Man-Thing, and Dr. Voodoo, perhaps, who do not necessarily rely on opponents having buffs, but Mystic Dispersion mechanic in itself greatly benefits, obviously, whenever opponents have access to buffs, and that quite often can be a downfall of plenty of Mystic champions because they lose vast majority of their effectiveness. And that's why I'm definitely extremely grateful for additions like Black Widow Clairvoyant, who arguably functions even better in matchups where opponents are immune and doesn't care about how many buffs they do or do not have. Then we have champions like Man-Thing, like Dr. Voodoo, like Mojo, who bring their own buffs to the game. Longshot does not rely on Mystic Dispersion as well. You could argue the same thing about Magic, for instance. But class as a whole, I think they're kind of being held back by this idea in developers' heads that the champion abilities always have to basically be empowered by opponent having access to said buffs, and there are plenty of champions that are significantly weaker and borderline unusable should that not be the case. And out of all the classes in the game, Mystic champions, I think, has the shortest kind of like window of utility overall, and they kind of have these horse blinder things where everybody just looks at a Mystic champion and you assume a couple of things: buff control, power control, and that's pretty much it. Right, and I'm happy that recently we have had some diversification of that, but I think the class largely is still being held back due to that. Like, Mystic champions are pretty much no one's day-to-day main questing champion, because there's simply no Mystic champion that has a great damage output out off the box, like Corvus, like Cosmic Ghost Rider, like plenty of Mutant champions or skill champions, so on and so forth. All of them seemingly have some intricate rotations that benefit from opponent having buffs. And overall, I think that's a bit of a downfall, because you don't have generic kind of like very great questing options for or vanilla matchup. But still, Mystic class definitely has gotten a lot stronger with additions of Sasquatch, with additions of Tigra, with additions of Dragon Man, with additions of Dr. Doom, Black Widow Clairvoyant, Longshot. It has been a fantastic year for Mystic class, and it shows, and currently the third best class. Right, after two strongest classes in the game, and this is going to be the most controversial pick, and before I go anywhere else, and just to show how serious that is, because I will not answer any comment that does not start with I 1517, because that is going to be the timestamp. If you type in 1517, I am guaranteed to read your comment and will answer it, because that is the only way I'm going to know that you heard my argumentation for sure, rather than just fast forward it through the class pictures. Mutant class has the largest number of good to slash great to slash amazing champions in game. Definitely. In that sense, the class is unrivaled. They have a ton of amazing champions, numbers wise. I do personally believe that science champions have overall higher quality of champions and less in quantity. The reason for my ranking, as in mutants will be second and science champions will be first, was quite simple. I sat down and I thought to myself, if I only would be allowed to use one class of champions, which class would I pick and why? The answer for that is because I found science champions to be able to deal with much more difficult and different scenarios, and they are overall much more versatile class type than mutants are. There are beautiful things in mutant class, but science champions just beat them out in a sheer amount of different important game aspects they can deal with. Science champions are perfect for weight countering, perfect for heal reversal, perfect for health reversal, access to tons of immunities and debuffs, so on and so forth. So overall, I'm going with science class. So 1517 has gone, right? And there we go. So mutant class, in my opinion, is the second best class in the game. By numbers, they're definitely the first because they have a ton of great champions. But again, when it comes to the very upper tiers of the classes, I do value science more. And mutant class has been buffed up immensely with the addition of Apocalypse. Such a great addition, making mutants horsemen, making them more effective. And he is a great standalone champion in his own right. Then we have Professor X, who is also absolutely wonderful addition. I do start to enjoy him more and more. He's quite complex to play, actually, much more so than initially seems. But he's great. And then we have your regular powerhouses of Namor and Omega Red. And then obviously Archangel, still one of the best mutants. And this is probably going to be the hardest class to rank, because there are just so many insanely good options. And Magneto buff gave another insane boost to mutant class, and he just shreds all of the metals and he shreds all the robots, which was one of the biggest weaknesses of the mutant class, because they were notoriously disadvantaged against tech champions and robots specifically, and Magneto eliminates that disadvantage pretty much in its entirety. And then you have a lot of champions like Havoc, who's still insane. And yeah, overall, just wonderful class stacked with insanely powerful options. And Colossus, I cannot not mention him. He probably has the highest damage, like that's easily available when synergized up, and great amount of utility, and one of the best buffs Kabam has done alongside Magneto. So mutant class is really jacked. And I know for a fact, as I'm recording this, there are going to be many people objecting my reasoning, and that's fine, if you at least listen to it. And now, the best class in game. The best class, in my opinion, is Science. And again, the reason why I picked them is because Science class quite typically is the master of slow debuff, and slow debuff is one of the most valuable debuffs in the game currently, given how frequently Kabam loves to spam these evades and unstoppables and on many different nodes. And overall, they just seem to cover just about everything that's needed. We have poison immunity with Hulk type champions, we have bleed immunity, we have access to incinerate immunities in Human Torch and Void and Red Hulk, and then we have access to weight counters, again with slow and whatever. Obviously, an elephant in the room is that Science class is also home to the best champion in the game currently, Quake. Unfortunately, the game is moving to 6 stars, and 6-star Quake's nowhere to be seen. Therefore, if you have made it this far in the video, there might be a bombshell announcement for you, and that means that Quake, after my next set of videos, will no longer be included in my champion rankings. Neither will any other champion who is not available as a 6-star. Because the game is moving on, and if Kabam is not going to give us 6-star Quake, I cannot consistently keep saying that she's kind of like the answer to everything. We need to adapt and move on. And I have decided that after next week's videos, when I post another champion rankings video in about half a year, I will not include any champion who is unavailable as a 6-star champion in the game, unless they get released by that time, obviously. But yes, that is a different topic there. And again, we don't have as many insanely useful champions in Mutant class, definitely. But the overall sheer amount of problems that this class addresses, as I said, we have slow debuffs, we have Quake, we have access to tons of different debuffs, pretty much every debuff more or less that is in the game. Human Torches and Beast. Captain America Infinity War is such a utility machine that just answers to so many different debuff mechanics, petrifies, armor breaks, just absolutely insane and underrated. Overall, yes, in my personal opinion, if I only had to pick one class to play with, I would pick Science, because I would feel most comfortable dealing with the vast majority of the in-game scenarios using combination of Void, Captain America Infinity War, Human Torch, Quake, She-Hulk, Red Hulk, so on and so forth. No matter how shiny the numbers of Mutant class might be with their prowess buffs and whatever else, I think Science class overall just covers the most ground in the game. Another great addition, I think, for Science class will be the Immortal Abomination. I think we're going to see that champion shine, as well as Human Torches continuing to getting more and more popular. And Red Guardian is absolutely unique with his ability not to ever gain buffs. Void is one of the all-time MVPs in this game as well. So yeah, absolutely love Science class. Do think it's the best class in game. Skill set, toolkit, and ability set wise. Anyways, that is it for today's video. It is already longer than I hoped it would be. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the buttons. And I'm going to catch you guys soon. See ya.